Hi again, everybody. Welcome to Inside Golf. And today, Inside Golf is going to take a look at the United States Golf Association headquarters in Far Hills, New Jersey, specifically the USGA Golf Museum and the Arnold Palmer Center for Golf History. This is home to the world's premier collection of golf artifacts and memorabilia. The USGA Museum is an educational institution dedicated to fostering an appreciation for the game of golf. But it also serves as a caretaker and steward for the game's history. So stay with us. Coming up, we'll begin our tour of the United States Golf Association Museum in Far Hills, New Jersey. It's next here on Inside Golf. Inside Golf, presented by PGN Plus. Play your golf bucket list. By Jersey Man Magazine, it's a Jersey way of life, and Philly Man Magazine, bringing it to Broad Street. And by the Philadelphia Section PGA, experts in the game and business of golf.
At this moment, across the country, families are packing their bags for a getaway. And no matter where they end up, they'll all be home by dinner. Plan your own at playgolfamerica.com. From finding fun and affordable programs to finding advice from PGA and LPGA professionals, playgolfamerica.com has a way for you to get away. Visit today for details. playgolfamerica.com, your link to the game.
Golf is your passion. Each round is a unique experience with memories that last a lifetime. Make your next round one to remember with pgnplus.com. The Professional Golfers Network. Sign up for free for exclusive access to the best private courses in your area. Already a country club member? Go to pgnplus.com to learn how to take your membership further. Play your golf bucket list only on pgnplus.com. Book your tee time today.
The gentleman who's going to give us an overview of what's here at the USGA Museum and Archives is the Senior Director, Robert Williams. Thanks for having us, Robert.
Great to be here.
Tell us a little bit, give us an overview of first the history of this building here, Golf House,
Sure.
And then what will people see when they come?
Sure. Well, Golf House is a name that came from where the USGA first started in New York City. And there was a brownstone on 37th Street and 5th Avenue, and we were there for a very long time. But then in the late 60s, early 70s, we moved out here to Far Hills to this house, which was built originally as a summer residence. But it was sort of the perfect setting for the USGA to come out in the early 70s with a whopping staff of 12. And the first floor of the museum was, or the first floor of this building was the museum. And the other floors were filled with all the other staffers who supported the running the championships and running handicapping, et cetera. And that evolved over time, and the museum was renovated in 2008 and expanded with a whole new wing. So we have a facility here that sort of celebrates particular individuals. Here we are in the Bob Jones room right now. So there are named rooms in this end of the museum. And then in the new wing, there's a Hall of Champions where we have all of the trophies for the national championships and a listing of all the national champions on the wall. And in addition to that, we have a linear story that tells the story of golf in America from the late 19th century to present day.
So when people come here, and how many on an annual basis would you say enter the doors here at the museum?
There's about 10,000 people who visit us here on site in Far Hills, which is fantastic. But more and more, we've been focused on reaching people through digital media and broadcast.
And when they come here, and right off the front entrance where we are is the Bob Jones room. And Mr. Jones, of course, passed away before the actual building was here, the museum. But he is certainly remembered with plenty of his trophies and photographs and medals from his brilliant career. And this is just, like you said, one of the other rooms here at Golf House.
Right. So there are 4 and about to be 5 named rooms, and the purposes of the named rooms versus the linear exhibit is former champions who share very closely in their values and the way they live their lives that sort of embody what the USGA is all about. And so we celebrate Bob Jones for his sportsmanship, And we have the Bob Jones Award, which is the highest award that the USGA gives on an annual basis to a golfer who represents and embodies that idea of sportsmanship and integrity. Mr. Palmer's room, which is across the hall here, really celebrates philanthropy and giving back to the game and what he really embodies and what he's done for the game. And then on the subject of excellence, the pursuit of excellence is what the championships are all about. We have Ben Hogan down the hallway here and Mickey Wright.
And there's soon to be an addition, too, right? The Nicholas Pavilion?
There will be a Nicholas room. Many people who come to visit here have been wondering for years, like, where's Jack? Where's Jack? Well, on May 27th, there will be a Jack Nicholas room celebrating that great champion. And that room really begins to explore why was he the most successful major champion, and sort of interesting themes and ideas that he really shared with us. And that's one of the unique things about the rooms, is that they're developed with the families or the person themselves. So they really are sort of an intimate look at those people.
Now, people will say, if I'm going to go and visit the museum, how long does the average person need to kind of pencil out on their day, hours-wise, to come through here and get, the full treatment and experience of what is here?
Yeah, I'd say most people probably spend 2 to 3 hours here. Yeah, maybe a little bit longer if it's nice weather outside. We have a 20,000 square foot putting green, which people take advantage of, and we have historic putters and historic balls for people to get a little feel of that. But if you really are taking your time, you could spend all day here, but I'd say most people spend a couple of hours here.
And are they guided tours, or can people go on their own?
Well, obviously people can do what they want on their own. They can come anytime. We really try and engage, a younger set of golfers through, USGA, LPGA Girls Golf Program, Boys and Girls Club of America groups. So group engagement, and then obviously guided tours.
Can you reveal some of the more famous visitors here to the museum?
Well, certainly our champions are favorites when they come back.
And do they?
And they do. Mr. Palmer has been here several times he serves on the museum committee, so he's a huge fan and supporter. But we have, I'd say, somewhere between 10, 20 champions come back per year, and they come and look at their name on the wall in the Hall of Champions and look at their trophies. And, the amateurs who make up so many of our championships, 10 of our 13 championships are amateur championships. And when they come back, that's also hugely exciting for us.
Well, Robert is someone who is here, obviously, full-time and knows intimately what's involved on every inch of Golf House. Do you have a favorite spot?
The Mickey Wright room. It's one of my favorite spots. I think Mickey has gotten quite the credit that maybe other players like Arnold and Jack and Gary Player have, but many people don't know that she won 4 U.S. Women's Opens, and just she was so impressive that both Byron Nelson and Ben Hogan both said that she had the greatest swing they ever saw. So that's a pretty high compliment.
Robert, we're standing in front of Mickey Wright's bag, and it's minus 2 of the clubs that are actually on the wall. Tell us about those.
Sure. Well, first her 4-iron, which is pretty amazing. You don't see many 4-irons with a wear pattern about like this in the center of the club face, and
that's the sweet spot for Mickey Wright.
Yeah, the sweet spot for a butter knife 4-iron from the 60s, and she stuck with those Wilson clubs for a very long period of time. And then the bullseye putter that she won 81 of her 82 tournaments with, including 13 major championships. So again, someone who was committed to what they were doing and stuck with what they knew worked, and she was really successful.
Tell me, what's the origin of getting a collection of clubs like this from a champion, a 4-time U.S. Open winner? Are they want to, give them up, even though they'll be on display maybe for, generations of golfers?
I think most people are really excited to be, as you would think, USGA champions. To be the national champion means a great deal. And they know that what the museum does in terms of preservation and celebration of the game, that they're not giving it to an institution that's going to be flippant with it. We're going to take good care of it, and we're going to use it in perpetuity. So I think that excites people to know that they're a part of the game's history, that the bullseye putter is in the same hands and in the same realm as the Calamity Jane from Bob Jones, like a club from Arnold Palmer or a club from Babe Zaharias. People are part of a very elite club. There's only about 615 or so national champions since 1895. So it's not usually very hard to get them to participate in preserving the game's history.
Well, our thanks to Robert Williams for giving us a little bit of the tour. Next up, we'll be joined here in the dawn of American golf with the senior curator of the USGA's museum, Michael Trout.
Exactly. So
Stay with us.
a
It's
pretty
next
amazing club.
on Inside
Yeah,
Golf.
At this moment, across the country, families are packing their bags for a getaway. And no matter where they end up, they'll all be home by dinner. Plan your own at playgolfamerica.com. From finding fun and affordable programs to finding advice from PGA and LPGA professionals, playgolfamerica.com has a way for you to get away. Visit today for details. playgolfamerica.com, your link to the game.
Well, Mike Trossel, actually no stranger to Inside Golf, because a couple of years ago, Mike, we caught up with you at Marion when you were there for the U.S. Open, so it's good to see you again, only this time on your home turf.
Absolutely, yeah. It's good to be hosting you guys here.
You are the senior curator and historian for the museum, and we've gotten an overview already, but I know you know every nook and cranny of this building. And where are we right now? And maybe you could just give us an idea of what's on display.
Well, we're now in the permanent galleries right now. So when you walk in and see the Hall of Champions, this is one of the first things you get into and see. When you walk in here, what we're trying to do is put everything in context with what's happening in America at the time. So the USGA was formed December 22nd, 1894, the Calumet Club in New York. So when you walk in here, we're going to take you from the beginning of golf in America, which really permanently started in the late 19th century, and bring you up to the present day. Second in context with what was happening politically, socially, economically in the country. So we're here in the dawn of American golf, this gallery, and one of our iconic stories from there is Francis Ouimet winning the 1913 U.S. Open.
Greatest game ever played, right, as the movie says.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, with Francis Ouimet, a 20-year-old amateur, beating Harry Vardon and Ted Ray in a playoff. He's got 10-year-old Eddie Lowry on the bag. It really is a very cool story that resonates with a lot of people, this rags to riches type story.
Yeah, talk about an underdog who came from way off the pace to win. Let's look at some, speaking of artifacts, it's amazing the collection of artifacts that you have from back in 1913 up at the Country Club at Brookline when we met one. You actually have some of the clubs that he used that year.
Yeah, we do. We have 4 clubs and the putter as well, so 5 clubs in total from Ouimet, and they're it's really quite amazing. They were given Eddie Lowry, who ended up selling them after a period of time, and then they were eventually donated to us for security reasons. And they're just spectacular. I mean, clubs that go back, made by Tom Stewart, great club maker. And one of the clubs here is Ouimet's Mashie, which he used to set up birdies on the 17th hole in both the fourth round and the playoff when he beat Vardon and Ray.
You know, do you have any idea of how many clubs he actually had in his bag?
Yeah, he probably had about 9 or 10 clubs, and we don't know where the other ones are. So this represents about half of what they were. And he did an interview in 1963 for the 50th anniversary of his win when the U.S. Open was back at the Country Club in Brookline. And Ouimet said he had 9 or 10 clubs. He probably only used 6 or 7, which is pretty amazing.
And we have over here, moving from clubs to the balls that were used, even a scorecard dating back to that U.S. Open win by Francis Ouimet.
Yeah, you know, what we like to do here at the museum is preserve and celebrate what we have. And some of these clubs from more than 100 years ago, golf balls and scorecards, certainly the preservation is a big part of it, especially with paper, but the celebration is big as well. When we had the 100th anniversary a couple of years ago in 2013, we brought everything up to the Country Club at Brookline where we had the U.S. Amateur. And these are really special. You can see that the golf balls are either the square mesh or the bramble. It was certainly a little bit, it was before dimples came into existence. And the scorecards are pretty amazing in themselves. You can actually see that Bernard Darwin, the great golf writer, right up there was the scorekeeper during the playoff. So it's really pretty impressive.
Now the size of the ball looks a little larger than today's ball.
Yeah, you know, they're probably about the same size, maybe slightly
Maybe because
larger.
of the dimples and the way they're on the ball makes it, to the eye, look a little bit bigger.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, one thing's for sure about those balls, they probably weren't going too far, weren't traveling too far, especially in that Monday playoff. There was a driving rainstorm, and, you know, you hit a ball like this, it's pretty amazing to shoot a 72 like Ouimet did in that playoff.
And one other artifact from that event, the Champions Medal. This is the actual medal that Francis Ouimet won.
It is. That is his Champions Medal. And, Ouimet is a great story. His biggest goal was to win the U.S. Amateur, which at the time was a bigger championship than the U.S. Open. But he won the U.S. Open first, had this, and then went on to win the U.S. Amateur in 1914 and then again in 1931. But this is the actual gold medal that Ouimet went home with. When you go back to the beginnings of the U.S. Open, when Horace Rollins won the first U.S. Open, he won a gold medal, just like Ouimet. He won $150, and Ouimet was an amateur, so he didn't win any money. And he won custody of the U.S. Open trophy for 1 year. And if you look at present day, obviously it's a little bit different. Still get the medal and the trophy, but the prize money is just north of $1.6 million now.
Well, here at the museum, Bob Jones has his own room, Mike, but this Calamity Jane club that he used to win numerous national championships gets its own setting in this particular part of the building.
Yeah, it does. It's a really special club. It's nicknamed, as you can see here, the most famous golf club in the world. So Jones was a great amateur player, and by 1920 had a great game, but was still looking for something to really put him over the top, and that was a putter. So he went to Jimmy Maiden, who was the head pro at Nassau Country Club out on Long Island, and Maiden gave him this putter, this Calamity Jane putter, to use, so he could continue and start putting a little bit better. And Jones used the original Calamity Jane to win his first 3 major championships, and then the face started to wear out. So the sweet spot wasn't quite there where it was before. So he had 6 replicas made from a Spalding company. And this is the first replica here, Calamity Jane 2, and he used this to win 10 of his 13 national championships, including the Grand Slam in 1930.
So he would have had this in his hands when he won the 1930, finished the Grand Slam at Marion.
Exactly. So it's a pretty amazing club, and that's at the museum is really fun. We're able to take some of these clubs on the road, like when we went to the U.S. Open at Marion back in 2013, to bring Calamity Jane, to bring Hogan's 1-iron actually to the course, to where history actually happened with it, is pretty special.
Now, you know everything about this club, it sounds like. How many one-putts did he have, do you know?
I don't know that off the top.
Did I stump you?
The statistics back at the time weren't quite as good, but I'd imagine it was quite a few.
I was going to say, he probably had quite a few.
He really did. I mean, a lot of his wins in the 1930 Grand Slam season were not close. I mean, if you look at the 1930 U.S. Amateur, there weren't a lot of close matches that it came down to, and even in the championship match, I believe he won 8 and 6. So it was not that close.
It was over before it started, in other words, almost.
Exactly.
And
right.
Calamity Jane had a lot to do with that.
Exactly right.
One of the rooms here at the museum in Far Hills is an era that's labeled the Depression and the World War II era. And what was golf like back then, and what happened around that era involving the game of golf. And Michael, take us through it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting era because you have, obviously, the stock market crash and the Great Depression. So golf really went down into a bit of a lull during that period. But there are a few good things that came out of it. One is public course golf. We started our U.S. Amateur Public Links Championship in 1922, and it really started to gain some momentum in the 30s when, again, a lot of people were no longer members at private clubs. The second part, it was a big time of growth for women's golf. Great women players in the 1920s like Galena Collette, retired and kind of faded away as we made room for Patty Berg and Babe Dietrichson-Zaharias and some others in the 1930s and 40s. And it eventually led to the forming of the LPGA in 1950.
So, and here you have some of the artifacts going back to that era and the beginning of the LPGA in golf.
Yeah, exactly right. And you've seen the Mickey Wright room, which is a very impressive. Mickey, a 4-time U.S. Women's Open champion.
Greatest swing ever, according to some pretty good people like Ben Hogan and Byron Nelson.
Yeah, her swing was amazing, and that's really what we tried to highlight in that room, the fact that her swing was, absolutely fawned over by guys like Nelson and Hogan and some of the people who spectators said that they had the best swings, members of the media. Mickey Wright was a big part of that. Babe Dietrichson-Zaharias. Zaharias was a great track and field athlete, won 3 medals, the 1932 Olympics in track and field, and eventually went over to golf, and then became a founder of the LPGA Tour in 1950 and won 3 U.S. Women's Opens, culminating in 1954.
Stay with us. More to come from the USGA Museum here in Far Hills. And by the way, the museum is open 6 days a week from Tuesday through Sunday. And it's less than 2 hours away from Center City, Philadelphia. If you haven't seen it already, I'd like to introduce you to Jersey Man Magazine, published by former Eagle tight end Ken Dunnick. It's the only men's magazine in our area. Enjoy articles on cigars, martinis, the mob, business, politics, and, of course, golf. Written by big-time journalists like George Anastasia, Bill Lyon, Sam Carchidi, and many others. Subscriptions are only $20 a year and are available at jerseymanmagazine.com.
At Valley Forge Casino Resort, we're rolling out the action and bringing it all to the table. So go all in at Philly's premier entertainment destination. Now on sale. Josh Turner, March 28th. Jenny McCarthy, April 10th. Hart, May 22nd. Frank Sinatra Jr., May 23rd. Valley Forge Casino Resort, the only Philly area casino that has it all.
Welcome back to Inside Golf. This is our teed off segment. Today we're back at the Valley Forge Casino Resort in King of Prussia. And joining us today on our panel, Harry Mays, who holds down the fort Monday through Friday from 10 to noon on the Fanatic 97.5 in Philadelphia. Leela Mackey is with the Philadelphia section of the PGA of America, Director of Player Development, and the Head Director of Golf at Philadelphia Cricket Club, Jim Smith Jr. Jim, recently there was an article in Golf Digest, I believe. Johnny Miller, or not Johnny Miller, they had an anonymous pro, could have been Johnny Miller, but it wasn't, who said he'd rather win the FedEx Championship at the end of a given year than capture a major. And it all came down to dollar signs.
Right.
Now, winners of majors are going to do okay, I think.
Absolutely.
But what do you think about winning the FedEx Championship? Was a guaranteed annuity, maybe $10 million or something like that, compared to having your name up there as a winner of a major?
I can't believe anybody would want to win the FedEx more than a major, frankly. I
Really?
really can't. And you know, A, just because of the legacy that you leave when you are a major winner, but B, the lifetime value of winning a major, I gotta think, is as good or if not more than the annuity that you're going to win.
So you're saying long range, winning a major has it over a $10 million payout for 1 year?
I don't know that for sure, but that would be my assumption, and therefore I would want to win a major, if not more.
What do you
than
think, Leela?
I agree with Jim. I don't think that you can put a dollar sign on what it gives you to win a major as far as promotion of yourself and what it gives you in the future. And it just doesn't carry, the FedEx Cup doesn't carry nearly as much prestige, I feel like, as the major championships do.
But it will help you pay some bills short term, right,
No
Harry?
question about it, but this reminds me of a line from the movie Wall Street where Bud Fox asked Gordon Gekko, how many yachts can you water ski on? $10 million is $10 million. You never sneeze at that. But a green jacket lasts forever. And I don't think, as great as the FedEx Cup playoffs are and what they've brought to golf, it's nowhere near the significance of winning a major, the Claret Jug, the U.S. Open trophy, and the like. No way.
Well, I guess his point was, the anonymous tour player who came to this conclusion, is that, look, there have been guys who have won the FedEx who have not won majors, and they're never going to maybe get to win a major.
Right.
But they grind it out over the course of 1 year and make a big payday. And therefore, everybody's thinking, they don't think legacy, they're thinking here and now and what that's going to do for their career. So I could see how some players out there may say, you know what, show me the money right now, and I'll worry about all that other stuff later. I don't know. Next question. When it comes to the majors, if you had a chance to win all of them, what would be the most important one?
U.S. Open. Even though I'm a PGA member, and I should say the PGA Championship, U.S. Open, without a doubt, because that's the Open Championship in the United States. That's the one that every single player has an opportunity to win, who's a good enough golfer. It just, to me, is the ultimate title.
Okay. Leela?
Well, I'm going to say PGA Championship. I hope Jeff Surratt is listening.
Jeff Surratt, by the way, is the director of the Philadelphia section of the PGA of America. Okay, just full disclosure.
Yeah. As a PGA member, I think that winning the PGA Championship would be really special and really meaningful to me.
Harry, Harry, how about you?
No disrespect to the previous answers, but I would love to wear a green jacket and be able to drive my car down Magnolia Lane.
Well, I think, and that to me would be probably of the four, number one, because once you win, you're always going to get invited back. And even if you can't play anymore, you're still going to be there to reminisce and to tell lies at the champions dinner and hang around. And, you know, that to me, now if you're growing up outside of London, the Open Championship, which we call the British and they call the Open, that's probably the number one major to win, right?
Anytime I've read or heard that question asked of European players, they all say the Open Championship. It's got the history and the prestige across the pond that we just don't see or feel every day that they do.
Let me ask you to rank them then. So you want the Masters, and then what's 2 and 3 and 4?
I'd go British second because it is the oldest championship, and then I'd go U.S. Open and then PGA. No disrespect.
Okay. And what's the most likely one for you to win? The U.S. Senior Open or Amateur? U.S. Senior Amateur?
Yeah, the Phoenixville Open.
You got no shot. All right, that's going to do it. What's your favorite major? Hey, if you can win one of them, I don't care what it is, you've accomplished something. I want to thank Harry, Leela, and Jim, and Inside Golf. We'll be back with more in just a moment. The Valley Forge Casino Resort is the region's only full amenity gaming resort, and it's only seconds from the Pennsylvania Turnpike at King of Prussia. It features 600 slots, 50 table games, and there are nearly 500 guest rooms, plus 8 restaurants designed to meet all of your dining needs. So put the beautiful Valley Forge Casino Resort on your destination list.
At this moment, across the country, families are packing their bags for a getaway. And no matter where they end up, they'll all be home by dinner. Plan your own at playgolfamerica.com. From finding fun and affordable programs to finding advice from PGA and LPGA professionals, playgolfamerica.com has a way for you to get away. Visit today for details. playgolfamerica.com, your link to the game.
The game of golf, especially here in Philadelphia, has lost one of its treasures. James W. Finnegan was a renowned author and golf historian. Just last December, Jim joined us here on Inside Golf, discussing the story of the forgotten champion, Johnny McDermott.
In the world of golf.
Rest in peace, Jim, and many thanks for your contributions to this great game we love. Well, that's going to do it for part one of our tour of the United States Golf Association Museum here in Far Hills, New Jersey. We'll be back with even more exhibits and displays next week. As you've seen, by collecting, preserving, and interpreting the historical developments of the game, there's an emphasis the association has on its championships and also promotes a greater understanding of golf's cultural significance. And we'll have more from the museum once again next week here on Inside Golf. I'm Harry Donahue, looking forward to joining you again next week on Inside Golf from Far Hills, New Jersey. Inside Golf, presented by PGN Plus. Play your golf bucket list. By Jersey Man Magazine, it's a Jersey way of life, and Philly Man Magazine, bringing it to Broad Street. And by the Philadelphia Section PGA, experts in the game and business of golf.